We actually are not a design firm, but we have resources for designers and contractors. We are a housing education company that educates homeowners who want to build ADUs. So we are your advocates for ADUs. We also service you by coming out to your homes and doing actual on-site home evaluations to look at the property, to tell you exactly where your ADU can go, you know, what the setbacks are, and a lot of other things that we'll, you know, cover here in the presentation. And then finally, we are a referral resource for all the specialists in the industry who are now very experienced, not only in building ADUs, but designing ADUs, and working with the agencies, you know, the zoning departments. There's 482 jurisdictions in California, so, and San Diego's got a lot as well. And you know, so we work with all of those different agencies to make sure that your designs get through efficiently and cost effectively. So without further ado, right now we are in a perfect market. In-laws, granny flats, accessory dwelling units. So an ADU is an accessory dwelling unit. It's a habitable space that has a bedroom, a bathroom, a full kitchen. And basically, you know, they can be rented out. You can use it for family, or you can use it for yourself. It's, you know, there's lots of different ways that these ADUs are being used. But right now, we have favorable legislation. There's been a lot of new laws that have come down the road starting January 1st. And there's been a fee reduction in the development and impact fees that the city, counties, and different jurisdictions were charging. And that's saving homeowners somewhere around $14,000 to $18,000. So, you know, unless you're in the Coastal Commission, which is a whole nother conversation, and I'm not going to cover that one tonight, most people probably aren't, but a lot of savings. And it's still a hot housing market. You know, things are not going down. We are in an affordable housing crisis right now, as you probably all know, that you can't go out and buy, you know, a $500,000 house, you know, brand spanking new in a great neighborhood with great, you know, schools. I shouldn't say that, because there are neighborhoods you can buy in, but I'm pretty sure a $500,000 house is going to need some work. You know, it's not going to be brand spanking new. So with that being said, you know, there's just so many factors that go into the timing of these ADUs right now. They expect an increase of 1 million people coming to San Diego in the next 30 years. That's a lot of people. And right now, our rental vacancy rate is 3.3%. It should be 7%. That's a healthy rental amount. And record rents, because of that, are going up. You know, the average rent is $1,800 a month, and it's only going to go up, you know, with time. So we're in a deficit about 400,000 housing units in San Diego County. So some of the major law changes that have happened as of January 1st are every jurisdiction in the state of California, there's 482, have to adopt all the new laws. And that's one of the things. I'm going to cross over here, you guys, if you don't mind, just so I can actually see what's going on here. So they all have to adopt these ordinances. And so you may even find right now, if you've gone down to your local zoning department, that you know, they're still trying to catch up and get up to speed with all these new laws. I just spoke with somebody in Poway today, and she said, we finally posted our new handbook last night. You know, it's taken us all month, but you know, we're there. So now we're ready to go. But there's probably a lot of other areas, you know, that are still probably working on it. The other thing that's a big thing is Title 24s, and that's the energy calculation in the state of California, which now says that every new construction has to have a net zero energy footprint. So it can't produce more than it's using. I think that's the right word. Anyways, it has to have a net zero energy usage. So because of that, solar is now required on every new detached unit that you build. If it's a garage conversion, if it's attached to the house, or if it happens to be in an area where there's just too many trees and shade won't, allow solar, then you are exempt from that. But most of them are not. So the other exciting changes are the removal of owner occupancy. For the next 5 years until 2025, your ADU and your primary do not need to be owner occupied. That means you can rent both of them out, go move somewhere else, go travel, go build, another home someplace else. That's huge. They will have to vote on this again in 2025, but chances are it's going to pass. We feel pretty confident about that. We talked about the removal of development and impact fees. Those are on units less than 750 square feet. I believe the county it doesn't matter what size it is, it's been waived, and the city of San Diego. But in some of the other jurisdictions, now they've been waived on units less than that. If it's over that, it's based on the size of the property. HOAs can no longer prohibit ADUs. So if you live in an HOA development with CC&Rs, they can no longer say you cannot build an ADU. However, the CC&Rs still have some control and some requirements that you are going to have to follow. And we can go into, if you live in an HOA, you can ask about that. We can talk about that later. Side and rear setbacks, this is huge. They have all been reduced to 4 feet. So if you lived on a property that had a rear setback of 25 feet, and now it's 4 feet, maybe before you didn't have enough space to actually build. But, that extra amount of space you now have because of that 4 foot is huge. Now, if you are on a corner, I will tell you, you still have to maintain, in certain jurisdictions, you still have to maintain the original exterior side setback, but most of those are about 10 feet, so they're not huge. The other big thing is that every property now has the ability to build not only an ADU, one ADU if you are in a single family residence zoning, but also one JADU. And you may ask, what's a JADU? It's a junior ADU. And the difference between an ADU and a JADU is the JADU is comprised of space in the existing primary home. So let's say you have a bedroom or a bathroom, and it's still a little bit of a gray area, but I did hear recently that you can possibly convert the garage into a JADU as well. We're still trying to get clarity or clarification on that one. However, it can only have an efficiency kitchen. So an efficiency kitchen is a bar sink, a mini fridge, and a microwave. So they're really meant for maybe a caregiver, somebody who still has access to your, main kitchen, but just needs a space to, heat some water up and have a little fridge. They also don't need to have a bathroom in that space, but it's nice to have it. And the other thing is it's got to have access into the primary home and access outside of the home. Now, an ADU can be attached to the home and have the same thing. It cannot have a door into the primary home, and it has to have a full kitchen. So that's the difference. It works for a lot of people to have garage conversions because they can still put a kitchen in those smaller spaces. 400 square feet is a studio, but you can easily put a smaller kitchen. Now they make appliances that are, loft size, so they all can fit in like 6 feet of space. And then you've got a pull down Murphy bed, and people are making it work. There's no minimum lot size requirement as well, so any size lot can have an ADU as long as you are building within the confines of the setbacks. The other thing is cities can no longer mandate a maximum size of less than 800 square feet for a 1 bedroom or 1,000 square feet for a 2 bedroom. So I don't know what Chula Vista was. Larry, I heard in the back there, works for Chula Vista, but I will tell you, Carlsbad, where I live, 640 square feet was the max you could build up until now. Yeah?
It's half of the primary units.
50% of the square footage of the...
That's what the state, which is 1,200. Or 50% or 1,200 square feet.
So we can talk, we'll talk about that. That's a good one.
You can
because,
go up to 1,200, but the primary got to be at least 2,400.
for that. So with the new state law of, it's either 800 or 850 square feet, if it's attached, can somebody still build 8 or 850?
Sorry?
Can somebody still build 8 or 850 square feet if it's attached? Or it still has to follow?
800, then they got to be at least 1,600 for the house. But we're updating our ADU ordinance as of right now.
Okay, great. So see how
So
you
the 4
guys,
feet, I understand, 4 feet setbacks.
Yeah.
In the rear.
yeah,
There, what happens to the airport?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. So we can talk about that. There's heavier consequences for cities that are not in compliance. There is an agency now called the Housing and Community Development Agency, HCD. They are governed by the Attorney General, I believe. And so if there's certain jurisdictions that are not adopting these new ordinances, then this other agency can step in and kind of get them in line. But I think the state of California really is trying to streamline just the whole state. So eventually, straight across the board, there will be the same requirements, same laws, size-wise and what have you. So it'll make it much easier, I think, for homeowners. ADUs are now allowed on multi-family zone lots. That's a big one, because there's a lot of people who live in duplexes or triplexes that originally were told they cannot build an ADU, and they now can. And the other thing we just heard is you can now take vacant, uninhabitable space, let's say a basement, a closet, a storage space, and actually use that to convert into your ADU. So there's a lot of things coming down the road, and hopefully we can share some of that with you afterwards. Cities can no longer require you to replace the parking when you convert a garage. That was a big deal before, because if you wanted to convert your garage into an ADU, you had to replace that parking. Plus you had to have parking for the ADU. A lot of these smaller North Park, properties that are only 5,000 square feet, there's just not a lot of space. And when I talk about parking, we're talking about parking on site, not street parking. So that's been a big one, because now you still may be required to provide parking for the ADU, but you don't have to replace the house's parking if you convert the garage. So some of the things that you want to look for as a real estate agent, or if you're an investor or homeowner, even looking for properties for an ADU. The important things that you want to look for in evaluating a site is a detached two-car garage is going to be the easiest conversion of all, because number one, it's already separate from the house, and generally it's got a driveway in front of it. You can usually separate that from the main house. A walkable neighborhood is great. An area that commands high rents, such as like North Park, South Park, City of San Diego, there's a lot of areas that rents are just, it's crazy. They're $1,800 for a one-bedroom. A backyard that offers privacy, alley access is a great one. So there's a lot of homes that have the garages, the detached garages on the alley. That's ideal if you want to convert that into an ADU, because then the renter can just drive in off the alley, pull right in, and it's very private from the primary home. A corner lot, a deep lot, those are also important things to look for. So I'm just going to touch on this because I know when a manual from DS comes up that he's going to talk a little bit more about cost. But the important thing to share with you is that the building costs are right around $250 to $350 a square foot. And that's kind of, in certain situations, that could be all in, which means it includes your, your fixed costs, your permits, your design fees, your subs. The expensive square footage are kitchens and bathrooms. Those are the most expensive because every trade out there is going to be touching those spaces. The less expensive square footage is, bedrooms, hallways, closets. Those are just framing and flooring, more or less. So the larger your ADU, the lower the cost per square foot. So obviously, things like, a garage conversion, or if you're adding above the garage, 2 stories, those are going to be more expensive as well. So here's a kind of a little bit of a cash flow example for you. So garage conversions we're finding in San Diego are starting right around 90,000. And again, these are all starting at, they can go up from there depending on how many features you put into these units. But let's just say that you needed to finance this and you borrowed $90,000, 30-year fixed, just under 4% interest. You're going to pay about $422 a month for that loan. And you can rent that 400 square foot studio for about $1,300 a month. That's an $878 cash flow for you. And you can go down the list and see. So for a small detached, they're going to start about $150 for 550 square feet. Again, you know, loans are $700. You can rent it for $1,600. Our rule of thumb is usually about $800 to $1,000 per bedroom. So if you have the ability, if you're building a larger unit and you have the ability to add an extra bedroom and it's going to be a rental, it's not a lot more money to add that bedroom in comparison to what your ROI is going to be, you know, from a rental standpoint. So, you know, the ROI isn't just about the income you are going to get from this unit. And the number one reason people are building ADUs is for family, believe it or not, and then secondly for rental, and then third for themselves. So if you happen to have a parent who's in assisted living, you could spend anywhere on up from, actually it's more like $6,000 to $10,000 for assisted care. My mom lives in National City in an independent living facility. It's not even assisted care or memory care, and her rent's $3,500 a month for a one-bedroom, kitchen, bathroom. So I cringe to even know what it's going to be if she has to go into assisted care. But if you could build a unit like this and put your parent in there, the amount of money you're going to save is huge. So this is one thing you want to look at from a value standpoint. You know, again, it's not just the money you're going to get in rent. But you could also, if it's being rented, you could get anywhere from, you know, $2,000 to $3,000 a month, depending on the size of the unit. And also, you may decide that you want to move into the unit, downsize your life, rent the big house out, and just simplify your life and start pocketing that money for retirement. So those are kind of the way, you know, it does bring you value. A lot of people ask us, how does the appraisal work? And when you submit plans to pull permits for your ADU, it triggers a new assessment of the ADU, not your primary home. They won't look at that, but they will look at the ADU. And there's 3 different approaches we're hearing from the county. One is an income-based approach, so based on the income that it can produce down the road, a percentage of the construction costs, and then also market comps. There's a lot of neighborhoods, though, where there are no comps. And so they're going to expand, you know, the range, but they're still finding, you know, if they're in, I don't know, let's just say Bonita, and there's, you know, nothing within your neighborhood, they're going to have to start pushing out, and they might end up in Spring Valley, you know, where that's a different demographic altogether. So that's still a little gray area as well. You know, as far as your property taxes go, your property taxes will go up by about 1% of the construction costs, is what we're finding. So, you know, it will not affect what you're currently paying on your primary home. That doesn't change. It's just going to be the ADU addition, so about 1%. So if you're thinking about a granny flat, Maxwell offers on-site consultations. They're $299. I come out, we walk the property, we map out where the setbacks are, we talk about the size limits, the height limits, what the parking requirements are, you know, pretty much just everything, the whole gamut of what's involved for your specific property. And it's $299 for that. You know, like I said, it's about an hour and a half that I will spend with you. You'll get a full report. You'll get a lot of more information that's not on our website. And I think everybody has found it to be super informative. And I also, before I go out and meet with you, I do my due diligence. So I'll call the city zoning departments and gather as much info as I can to share with you. One thing I will tell you that we're finding is, by the way, has anybody gone to the zoning departments or the city or county and, okay, have you gone more than once and gotten different answers? Okay, this is why Maxable came to be, because people were stuck in this whole maze of, you know, I go on Monday and I get one answer, I go on Tuesday and I get another answer. I don't know what to do. I don't even know what the steps are to take to go from A to B. So we really lay it out for you guys. You know, we have resources to take you from one step to the next. And we really want to, you know, have a white glove, we want to be a white glove service for you throughout the process and really handhold you to make sure that you're getting the proper information, to make sure that it's really an easy process for you. You know, the last thing anybody wants is to build one of these units for their family or even themselves and just to have it be a nightmarish situation, because, you know, nobody needs added stress in their lives these days. So one thing about Maxable, San Diego's in the center. We have helped over 400 people in the last year and a half that we've been in business. We have now expanded into the Bay Area and Los Angeles. And down the road, we hope to be in Orange County and Riverside. But we definitely are the only company of this type currently in California that's doing actual on-site consultations. So, you know, when we come out and we walk your property, like I said, you know, we'll measure, we'll talk about all of this stuff. We'll cover just a lot of information. And, you know, we'll gather information from you based on who is this unit for. If it's for a family member, then you're going to have an ADA ADU. An ADA is Americans for Disability Act, something that's going to be universal design. So if someone's in a wheelchair or a walker, you know, then it's going to have to be designed differently than a standard ADU, right? So we'll talk about all of that stuff. And, you know, basically we'll give you a lot of resources and referrals to get you to the next step. We have a lot of tools and education on our website. The website is maxiblespace.com, and you can either email contact@maxiblespace, or if you grab one of my cards and a flyer in the back, it has my contact info on it. So it's just susan@maxiblespace.com. But that's about where we're at, and we are, you know, ready and willing to help you guys and answer questions.
20 years now, okay, and I signed on with them about 2 years ago. So today I want to talk a little bit about ADU pricing. I want to get into the specifics as they relate to building. So I want to touch on something. Has anyone ever Googled their medical symptoms, right? Tells you you're going to die like in 3 days, pretty much, right? Okay, well, if you Google how much it costs to build an ADU, you're going to get basically answers all over, right? So what I'd like to do today is I'd just like to talk about specifics as they relate to building. No project is the same, right? But at least we can get down to some material, building costs, things like that, so that you guys can see how they break down. Okay, so I hope to answer some of that, you know, some of those kind of daunting questions that you may have through this presentation. So we'll jump right into it. The first thing you're going to need is you're going to need plans and permits. I hope all of you do plans and permits, right, Larry? Yes. Right? In an ADU especially, you definitely want to make sure that you have your plans and your permits. Now, architects to a certain degree are artists, right? So artists can pretty much price their work. But for the most part, what you're going to pay to get a good set of plans is anywhere between $8 to $12 per square foot. And that also depends on whether you're going to need a draftsman, an architect, a structural engineer, right? If it's going to have a lot of weight, if it's going to be load bearing, then you're definitely going to need a structural engineer to partake in the putting together plans. So if you do a little bit of math and you say, let's say a 500 square foot ADU, on the low end at $8 is going to be right around $4,000 for those plans. With the $12 rate, it's about $6,000. Now I've seen some plans go for $12,000, but if they're going to save on your building costs, they're definitely well worth their money. So make sure that you vet your architect well, as you're going into this. Okay? As far as the permits go, right now what we've seen from our clients, I can't speak for everyone, but what we've seen our clients paying in permit fees for an ADU is anywhere between $4,000 to $6,000 when it's all said and done for those permit fees. Now I know that about 2 or 3 years ago, those same permit fees would cost you about $18,000 to $20,000. So I think you can see from Susan's presentation that California and the regulations are really making it easier for homeowners to build their ADUs, right? Now let's get into the building of the shell, right? If you've ever gone down and you've seen a construction site, I'm sure you've all seen a building like this, right? Where it's just kind of sitting like there for a couple weeks. I want to talk today about the building of the shell, right? And how it's priced out. Now, I know that some of you cringed a little bit when you heard Susan talk about that $250 to $350, per square foot rate, right? So I'll kind of soften the blow a little bit. Foundation, framing, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, drywall, lab, waterproof roof, all these things included. Okay, if you're just going to do a garage conversion, which means you're not going to touch the slab and you're not going to touch the roof, okay, you can get away with thinking with about $100 to $120 per square foot. Now, I mentioned architects before. We actually work with Chris, who's a very good architect, and we have actually just finished a project that was a garage conversion, and the client paid right around this price when it was all said and done because he was able to keep his slab and he was able to keep his roof. Okay. Now, with that being said, the majority of the ADUs that we've seen and prospected are not garage conversions. Okay. So the reality is that the detached, attached, and above garage ADUs are definitely going to start at your base price right around $200 to $225 per square foot. Now, if that seems expensive, I took the liberty of putting together kind of like a case by case basis to kind of give you some pricing. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to look at a 10 by 10 room. Okay, just a 10 by 10 room, living area, 10 by 10 room. Okay. So we're going to start with foundation. Now let's say that most people right now are not doing like a stem wall or crawl space. A lot of what we're getting right now is a slab for a living area. Has anyone had to pour concrete in their backyard, had to get a cement company out to do that recently? Do you remember what the square foot rate was, more or less? No? 6? 6? Oh, don't talk for the rest of the presentation. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, well, standard just for slab, without the rebar, the sand, the plastic that has to get in place for a living area, just a slab, okay, industry, right around $12 a square foot, okay? So the room at 100 square feet, we're just starting with the foundation, right? Now we can go into framing, okay? Let's say it's a 10 by 10 room, you have 4 walls. If it's a standard height of 8 feet, let's say each wall is 80 square feet, multiply that by 4, you get 320. Right? Anyone know the square foot rate for framing? Probably not, okay? So square foot rate for framing is right around $350 per square foot, okay? Now let's go into electrical. On our company, we call these blues. So has anyone ever taken the face plate off of their outlet or their switch and they see that little blue box? Okay, so we're just gonna call them blues. Let's say you have 2 outlets, 2 switches, 3 outlets, 1 switch, right? So you have 4 blues in the room, okay? How much do you think it costs to install and test and make sure that everything is running correctly from the panel on each one of those within their given circuit? How much? 40 bucks. Close, 50 bucks. Okay, so that's close. All right, we're going to mechanical. If you're like me and you need AC, you need some sort of ventilation, you need some AC and some cool air going in the room. We're so spoiled here in San Diego, right? We still need AC. Just let's say it's coming from a magical system that only cost me $200 to put a vent in this room. Okay, let's just say that for sake of the presentation here. Drywall. Does anyone know what drywall costs per square foot? I heard too much. Okay, we're talking about $4 per square foot. If you've ever had to go to Home Depot and pick one of those big heavy things up, it's 4 by 8 feet, it's 32 square feet. It costs about 12 bucks. But to give you more of an idea of why it costs that, if you've ever, if Leticia's doing Zumba in the living room, she hit the drywall and she breaks it, right? What did it cost for that handyman to come out and do the repair on the drywall? easily about 60 bucks, right? Just to do that repair on that little square right there, okay? So paint, 640 square feet. Why 640 square feet? Close, not the ceiling, which by the way, I have like an M. Shyamalan moment later, so don't talk about ceilings right now. I'm gonna surprise you all at the end. But no, we have to paint the inside and the outside, right? All right, so square foot for that is $3. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. $2,000 to paint the inside of a room and the outside of a room, right? $2,000, that's a lot. Well, I can do it for $1,000 if I put one coat of paint on it, right? But on a new construction, you're gonna want 2 coats, you want it done right. And that's the difference between doing things right and doing things half, right?
Does that include the paint?
That includes the paint. That includes the paint, yeah, okay? Which, by the way, if you go to Home Depot, you get the marquee, the nice bear, that's like 50 bucks a tub. So it's not cheap, okay? Flooring, 100 square feet. Has anyone had to do their, I know someone's had to do their floors recently. Someone, right? Square foot rate? Ballpark? Ballpark?
$6?
Let's go with 8. Let's go with $8, okay? That's 800. Baseboards, 40 linear feet, so you got 10, 10, 10, 10, all right? Oh. All right, there it is. All right, so $6 per linear foot. And that's for the baseboard cut to measure with the nail holes covered, sanded, and then painted over so that it just looks flush, okay? And then you have the waterproofing. Now the waterproofing is a combination of the insulation, the lat, that chicken wire you see, the siding, the shear wall that goes on top, and then we haven't mentioned the stucco, or whether it's going to be siding. Is it going to be hardwood? Is it going to be MDF board? No, right? You have to have something that's solid. So that's not cheap, right? So we're covering the outside of those 4 walls at 320 square feet. It's going to be about $20 per square foot, okay? You look at the roof. Now we talk about the roof, right? We haven't even talked about the roof. We just talked about the walls. So has anyone had to replace their roof with the rainy season that came in? Yeah. How much did you pay per square foot? Do you remember? No. No. Okay. I'll give you my card afterwards. If you need anything else, just give me a call. $8? Okay, I'll be friendly. We'll say it's $5. Okay. But you notice something happened up here. 540 for the framing. Right, that was my Shyamalan moment right there. I had to Google Shyamalan to know how to pronounce it. So 540 square feet, right? Because you have the first layer of landers, and then you have the actual pitch of the roof. So you have to add another 220 square feet of framing, right? Some of you, I don't know if some of you were looking at that number earlier and you knew that you saw the count was off, but we've already accounted for it. So it is the 1890 when you multiply the 350 by the 540, by the way. So I just wanted to mention that, right? But that's pretty much done, right?
No.
No?
Windows and doors.
No, you're gonna get a straitjacket because you're just gonna be in the room there with no windows and doors, all right? All right. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't buy this. It doesn't come with Prime. Okay. So. What's up? Part of the date night. There you go. Exactly. All right. So we do need a window. Has anyone had to put in a window recently? What did you spend with the window installation? There you go. All right. Yes. Ding, 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 ding. All right. $500. The door that you're going to put in, is it going to be a hollow door? On an ADU, you're most likely going to need a strong, solid, fireproof door. Okay. So the door, same thing. We're just going to say relatively $500 to install and buy the door. Project manager. How much is the project manager going to make for making sure that everything gets done in these next 4 weeks? How much do we want to pay him per week?
30 racks.
How much?
30 racks.
Yes. Yes. Huh? That's very generous too. But what I did was, again, to scale it down, let's say you just give them $400 per week to manage a project for you. Okay? By the way, I want to reiterate, if you've ever talked to a contractor and they tell you, oh yeah, 180 a square foot, 160 a square foot, what do you think are the first things they're not going to get you? Okay. And then let's give the company a little bit of profit, right? California State License Board, what do they ask the contractor to put in their profit margins? What was it? 10%. All right. So that's the 10% of all this that you see here, which gives us a grand total of $19,063. If you divide that by the 100 square feet, you're at 190 square foot, right? But you say, well, Emmanuel, you said it was 200 to 225 per square foot, right? Well, are most ADUs just a room? No, right? Where's the bathroom cost? Where's the kitchen cost? If anyone has had to repair, remodel their bathroom or their kitchen, then you know that, it costs money, right? But, when I saw the flyer, it said, the less expensive way to go about doing this ADU. I think Miguel, talked to me about that. We were talking about this beforehand. And I said, well, Miguel, ADUs are not cheap, but they do get expensive when you go the wrong route. You know what I mean? So Larry, I'm sure you've walked into projects where, you go to inspect something and then all of a sudden you see a bunch of stuff that shouldn't be there as is. If you don't mind, what's the first thing you have to do when that happens?
Come back in. You got it.
Yep.
Sit down and just drop the mask.
Yep. Basically shut everything down, right? Okay. And that can get expensive, right? Especially if you're paying it on that loan. Okay. If an inspector comes by and sees that something was done wrong, okay, guess what? It has to get done right. And if that particular contractor didn't account for those redos, well, guess what? He's going to take the remaining $10,000 of your progress payment and he's going to run to Cabo. And you're never going to hear from him again. All right, guys. Well, I guess what it comes down to is, for sake of this presentation, what I'm trying to say is know your cost. Know what you're going to get yourself into from the get-go. That's what really what I'm trying to do with this presentation. Know what you're up against. Okay. Now, I also grabbed this for Maxable Space, right? I just went up to $350 per square foot, right? Or I'm sorry, Maxable Space just went up to $350 a square foot to show you. Del Mar, La Jolla, Mission Hills, North Park, San Diego, Point Loma. Your cost to build, if you're building something for $350 a square foot, I'd like to say as a contractor that is a very, very well done, extras ADU. It'll look like the one that was on the flyer with the glass, a little wall by the pool and the can lights and the little patio. It'll look really nice, right? But as you can see, the average listing price offsets, the cost to build it substantially. Right? So if you know that you're going to spend, I'm all in between $300 and $350. I know that's where I'm going to be, right? That's where I want to pay for a good contractor. Then you can see how your numbers are making sense for you. Know your cost. The numbers two thing I'd like to say is know how your ADU will be used. Most people, when I go to prospect ADU projects, they already know what they're doing, but some of them are like, well, I might rent it for a little bit. I might do a little bit of, I might try Airbnb, which, by the way, the regulations for that are constantly changing too. Or, we might move in a couple years. I'd say just have a definitive plan on what you're going to do on your ADU before you even start putting money into it. That's the number two rule that I would say when you're going to be building the ADU. I did a little case study on a garage conversion ADU. So this house was purchased in 2012 for $405,000, right? Definitely not going to be worth that today. It's going to be worth a lot more. But they owed in 2019 $360,000. Okay, the house now is worth $620,000, or should I say, when they went to get the loan, was worth at $620,000. They added quite a bit of equity, $245,000. Now they took out a loan, not the whole equity, but they took out a loan to build an ADU. Okay, they had the old garage, and they decided that when their current mortgage was $2,400. With the current mortgage that they had, after they took out the loan, it jumped up to $2,695. So a difference of $300 per month. But guess what? Now they can convert that garage. Okay? The garage construction goes on. Here's the before. Here's the after. Right? Very pretty. Ooh. Right? Okay? So the previous payment was $2,695. Now the rent that they're making from that particular ADU has offset their payment. Their new payment is just right around $895. That's what they're paying for their mortgage with the offset of the rent now. Okay? So the present value of the home right now, had it not had the ADU, would be right around $689. Okay? But because they put that ADU on there, it's $829. Okay? So you can see, again, know your costs, know your numbers, right? Know what you're going to do with your ADU. Number three, know your contractor. Okay? We all know that if we're going to do any sort of a project, we're going to check the licenses and we're going to call the references. I would tell you as a contractor, right, if I'm being very transparent with you, I can't hide from public records, right? If someone has taken our company and put a lawsuit on our company for a building contract, guess what? It's going to be right there for everyone to see. It's in the public records. I'm happy to say DS Construction's never had one of those, but you want to check the public records, right? We've had issues where our clients are mad at us, and then they're happy with us, and then they're mad at us, right? But that's construction. If the client had to go and put a lawsuit in, right? Then that says something. Second thing I would definitely recommend you do is before you pick your contractor, go and visit one of their job sites. You know what I mean? We definitely offer it all the time, but a lot of contractors may not offer that. You know, so say, hey, I'd like to, you know, you said I called your reference and you said you did an ADU plan. Would you mind if I went and took a visit? You know, so that'd be a recommendation that I give to you guys. And then one of the biggest ones from a money standpoint is look for the change order protocol. Okay, so a change order. Does anyone know what a change order is? Unfortunately,
More money.
what's up? More money. Anyone a little more specific on what a change order is when it comes to construction? That.
Termites.
Basically, it's an added expense to the current contract. So if you contracted it at $100,000 and now you want to add something, right? That's $300,000. That's technically considered a change order. We won't issue a brand new contract. We'll just treat it as a change order as such in the contract. Now, the reason why I tell you look for the change order protocol is because some contractors actually have it in their contract that they don't need your permission to execute a change order. Okay? So you want to take a look at that. You want to make sure, well, let me see, how do you guys go about processing your change orders? Okay? That's the last thing that I had for you. That's my presentation. If you enjoyed the presentation, if you want to talk to me as a builder, I love talking about the ADUs. Feel free to snap a picture. That's my phone number right there. It's my cell phone number, right? You can text me, you can call me, whatever, and we can talk about ADUs. All right, thanks guys, appreciate it.
I'm going to open up a forum here for questions for our experts. I'm going to ask you to pull up your chairs here and sit right here for the four of you. We have Chris, who's a professional architect, Brenda Joe, a commercial insurance agent. Obviously, you've met Susan and Emmanuel and what they do. So the floor is open for any questions, personal or business. Okay, no, business really. Anyone have a question?
I do. I have a number of potential clients that are interested in alternative building, green building with particularly hempcrete. And I'd like to know what approach that would encumber to take on such a project. Because I know it's considered alternative building material, but the benefits of building with hempcrete blow everything away. And I'd like to have someone answer that for me, please.
Maybe a Chris question.
It's funny, I actually just had a client that asked me about that, and I was just very upfront with her. I said, I've never dealt with this before, but I would imagine that the first thing that you want to take a look at is free of toxins, making sure that you use natural materials, and then basically just go down. And we are not one, we're not there yet, but there are plenty of contractors that are actually certified in green building. So I would highly suggest you look those up, see if they have that type of certification.
Yeah, and with my firm, Rulin Design Group, we specialize in a lot of sustainable green designs. We've actually designed over 80 straw bale designs in the state of California, one of the most prolific designers of straw bale. And we're actually doing a straw bale ADU in the middle of Chula Vista. And so that's one of those things where it's like environmentally conscious, great energy efficiency, and we're also doing some steel framing as well on the residential side. So there's a lot of different alternatives to your standard stick construction, and I'd be happy to chat with you more in detail.
Have you got any experience at all with hempcrete?
Not hemp. Well, I'd have to check with our principal, Audrey Ruland, on hempcrete, so I can't say off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Are they pushing for more steel structure?
Well, the steel framing is very, very common in commercial spaces, and there's a lot of efficiencies in terms of long-term maintenance, and so we're starting to see that come over to the residential side. In terms of framing, you might see it gets framed up a lot quicker. It's almost like a little bit of a kit, and there's no termites. Termites are not going to chew through the steel.
They were starting to demand it for I guess retirement communities or whatever. that they had to be compliance was a heavy steel structure in the future in California?
Right now, in the local municipalities that I know, it's not a requirement, but we're starting to see people who want to be a little bit more long-term maintenance to keep the cost low and to be a little bit more efficient and sustainable and green.
Yeah. As far as we're concerned, we're actually diving into that right now. We happen to be in a particular area where the offset of labor to the price bump in steel might actually balance out. So we're actually, diving into that area. We personally haven't done a project yet with steel, but it's something that we're actually looking into right now as a company.
Purchasing a machine, actually.
What's that?
A Howard machine.
Oh, you have a machine.
We're looking to purchase a Howard machine.
Yeah, the company that we're working with, we submit the plans to them and they actually print everything out.
Yeah.
So that, and it comes basically like you would put together an IKEA set.
Machine
Yeah,
it's just labeled, each joist.
Exactly.
Flooring,
Down the road, you're going to start seeing some things, I think, over the next 10 years that we just can't even imagine, like a 3D house. I was in Las Vegas for Design and Construction Week convention, and there was actually a small house that they printed on a printer, a 3D printer. It was crazy. I mean, the thing was, this big, but very detailed. They could take months to do, but those are some of the things that are coming down the road. I mean, it's very futuristic in my mind, but it's going to become reality soon.
And Bob, you had a question?
Oh, I was just going to chime in that steel is great for long spans, and it's great for retrofitting where you want to knock out a wall and you don't have very much headroom for the beam that you need to support whatever is above it.
I've gone through 6 flips in the last 8 months, and everyone has had major tournament issue, major tournament repair. So that knocks out that one thing. The other thing is, I wanted to ask is anybody going into the foam spray insulation with the 2 compartments from the gun in the video? Basically, it cleans up the whole voids to where there's no leakage, anything like that. I think that's, if we're going to go upgrade as far as
that's usually an upgrade that most people don't consider. By the time we get the plans, they've already called for the certain installation, so I typically don't see it.
Are they not pushing for, at that 21 agenda, are they not pushing for it to be more?
There's new energy efficiency requirements that came out this year. A lot of it stems around solar. As the team mentioned here, if you're building a new detached unit, you have to add solar. If you're attaching to an existing structure or building, you do not have to add solar. But there's a lot of other energy requirements in terms of the insulation, dual pane windows, even triple pane windows, the energy efficiency of the appliances, the hot water system, the heating system, etc. So there's a lot of energy requirements that may drive the R value of the insulation that needs to happen. And in small spaces, it's tough to get the amount of insulation that we may need. Yes, Miguel.
And I was actually as you were talking, Rachel, earlier about the 3 phases of insurance during construction and post-construction, and how that might impact the homeowner or the investor. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so I know we're super excited about having these on our pieces of property, but this completely impacts your insurance. And the first thing you need to do is call your insurance company and see if they will cover any type of construction on your property. Now, depending upon the ADU that you decide to do, whether it's attached to your house, detached, or converting your garage, will dictate whether they're going to say yes or no, as well as whether they will say you also need to do these requirements to protect the safety. Anytime that you have any kind of remodel, even if you're remodeling your kitchen, you now have multiple people on site. When you have multiple people on site, you've increased your liability tenfold at a minimum. And so now you're gonna have all these people on your property and you haven't let your insurance company know. Just let's say you're creating a deck and someone trips and falls on the deck and you didn't tell your insurance company, they can decide not to cover you. So it is really important to be upfront and honest at the get-go. And it is okay for them to say, no, we don't allow this, because there are carriers out there that will allow it. It's gonna cost you more money. What's really important as well is if your insurance allows you to go ahead and have the remodel, how are you going to build? Are you going to be the do-it-yourselfer and your project manager on your own? Or are you going to hire a fully insured and bonded contractor? And depending on the different routes that you go, you'll have two different routes of insurance. Really important is that as you're building something new, that property has not been put into use. And so the property, the building materials you bring on site, and as you're building it, are not covered. What's covered is if there is damage to the existing property while the building is happening. For instance, the electrician is putting all this stuff in the new place, causes a fire, and there's damage to your existing dwelling. That's covered. The stuff that you just did and just burned down 100%, you just lost $60,000, not covered. So you're going to need additional coverages. And there are some carriers that will allow you to add for the materials onto your policy at the get-go. So if you have decided that it's a $200 a square foot and you're adding that, you're going to want to up your insurance when you start so that those materials are covered. If you go with a general contractor, some of the liability will fall onto him and his subs, but you'll also want to purchase what's called a builder's risk policy, which covers the materials until they're fully put into play and you have certificate of occupancy. Long answer to a super short question, but very important because this actually can bite you in the behind should there be any issues whatsoever or any damages, even a child walking by and tripping and falling.
Can I just piggyback on that, Brenda Jo?
Absolutely.
So when I come out and meet with homeowners, one of the things I suggest to them, Maxable suggests, is after it's built, if you're going to use it as a rental, take out an umbrella policy, because if you rent it to someone, they get hurt on the property, they can sue you for all of your personal assets. Excuse me. So it even goes beyond the building phase. It goes after. For manufactured home or prefab is they are built somewhere else and then they're brought on site. Some of the companies out there we're finding are homeowners who want to put a manufactured home on their property are not being able to get financing. A lot of the companies right now, and this I think will change this year. I'm hearing a lot of talk about some, banks and institutions, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, covering manufactured homes. So that's coming down the road. However, we're also finding that when you put one of these units on your property, it's not valuating the same as a stick build. So if you decide, if you're planning on selling the home down the road, you might want to take that into consideration. From a rental standpoint, you can probably still get the same rent, but from a resale value, probably not. So you want to look into that as well, from long term. I will tell you that for manufactured homes, if your timeline is such that you need to, let's say, house a family member soon, that is a way to go. It will, be less time to build the structure, or put it on the property. However, they're still going to cost about the same. We're finding that you're not saving a whole lot of money by having a prefab or manufactured home. So you might as well look at, either like the steel, light gauge steel, framing to avoid some of the pest problems down the road, but also building that way is probably going to be the wave of the future.
Speak to that on a personal level. I built a 14 by 14 she shed on my property. Okay, and it is fully equipped. It's got the full bathroom, laundry unit, and it's plumbed for a full kitchen. So we looked into that first, and one of the things that I found was, one, I already knew as an insurance, it's really difficult to get insurance for a prefab. Okay, it's much more expensive. But on a building code side, there are many places that are outside of California that do prefabs that do not pass our building codes, or they're using materials that are never going to pass our building codes, especially the paint and lacquers that they use. They just are never going to be California ready. And so it's very, very important that if you decide to go that way, to make sure that particular manufacturer and their plans are approved by your city before you go ahead and make the purchase.
On 3D printed units, how does that impact the financing? Or I know it's a brave new world.
Right now, there's no financing for them. It's all cash, you know, but I can see down the road that these companies are coming out of China or, you know, Japan, Asia with these units, but I can't imagine like how expensive they'll be to ship them here once they're built.
And you guys talk about financing, so not everybody has the equity in their house to just be able to like just pull from, and you might get a construction loan, or maybe you do have the cash, but you have a mortgage on the house. What's really important again is your insurance, and there are conditions to your mortgage and or the construction loan that you pull on this construction. And so it's really important to find out what those conditions are before you start, because it can add quite significantly to the cost basis of you moving forward. And these are things that you have to pull up front, paid in full. When you do a course of construction that is required with a construction loan, and I know very few banks or private lenders that have waived this, that's paid in full. So that's another anywhere from $800 to $4,000 of insurance for this. And so it's really important when you're kind of planning it out and where you're going to be to keep those things in mind.
Is kitchen required for the detached unit? The kitchen?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. Full kitchen, not an efficiency kitchen. Yes.
Once you finish your construction or your project, when it comes to the insurance, then it goes back to a normal homeowner's with the additional add-on, whatever it is that the code would be.
So again, yes, so you would have a homeowner's. If it's detached, then you could have it, there is a possibility for you to add an addendum that you also have a rental unit on site. And then you would want to make sure if you had any property within that it was covered.
But if it's, I may use HO3, whatever, additional construction to the property, but it stays under the master policy.
So you would want to make sure now that, so most policies, let's say you have a $500,000 house and they use 10% for the detached structure, which is $50,000, and you just spent $150,000. You want to make sure that you lift your limits for the other structures to equal the rebuild cost plus ordinance and law and those kind of things that go up over time. Yeah.
What extra hoops do you have to jump through if your house is on septic and propane? Maybe permit-wise, is it more difficult, or does it really matter?
It's something that needs to be addressed. So if you're on septic, sewer is definitely easier to work with. Septic is, the systems drive the number of bedrooms that you can have. You would normally think it's a bathroom, but it's actually the bedroom that drives that amount. And so your septic system needs to be defined by your septic company on how many bedrooms you can have. And you want to kind of work out the septic as we go through the design to, if it's a leach field, we cannot build the unit on a leach field. So if it's a tank, great. If it's a pit, great. If it's a leach field, we can't build there. What other locations can we design it for? You may need to add a septic, add onto your septic system to accommodate the ADU. It just depends on how you're sized.
Generally for a detached, I've heard about having to do all kinds of ground testing and all this other stuff before the foundation's going. What are you generally looking at just for permits, just before you can put a diamond to, say, a slab down or any of that? Because I hear horror stories about all this stuff you've got to put up 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 on before you can even start to build that unit. You have to get all this stuff tested.
Well, as you're seeing here tonight, you've got basically 3 big buckets of cost. You have your design cost, which is where we come in. You have your permit cost, which goes to the city, and then you have your construction cost. Those are your 3 big buckets. By far, the construction cost is the biggest. Permit costs vary across each municipality, and there's about 21 of them in the San Diego area. The state has forced them, the municipalities, to lower the permit fees. Typically, we're seeing them under 10,000, depending on the size, probably closer to 5-ish or so thousand. In terms of soil testing, that we've seen required on steep hillsides. So if you have a steep hillside, if you're on a canyon and you want to kind of build out towards that area, we have seen in some occasions that the city wanting to see that. But if you're on a flat lot, we've not yet seen the city municipalities come back and say, do all this soil testing to determine before you start laying any foundation.
And to touch on that, the horror stories you might be talking about are on building foundation on top of a slope, where those footings had to go substantially deeper to make sure that they grab on so that it sustains the weight. Because those pillars are going to go in so deep, that's why they need to, first of all, they need to calculate the slope to determine how deep those footings need to go. And then second, they need to know that that soil is going to be good enough to grab onto the footings. And the horror stories you might have also heard is, let's say they go to they do that, they didn't do a soil test, and then it comes back that the soil test has clay or has something that, you know, the city doesn't like, and they're asking you, okay, well, no, this has to get redone with steel. So that's where the expense can jump in really quick before you even start to put the sticks up. Yeah.
Or if there's any chance of hazardous waste in the entire history of the property. Like maybe there's an old gas station that was torn out 50 years ago that was adjacent or something like that. That can be a nightmare too.
Would that include munitions and things like that, like Miramar and such?
I don't have any first-hand experience, but I would guess it would be.
Cemeteries, things like that. Yeah, you don't want to build there.
Better be building.
Yeah, true. I just want to also, oh, I'm sorry.
I think Carlos had a question.
You go first and then I'll.
I have a unique situation. So I have a property that has, it's one property, but way back a long time ago, there used to be another house on the back portion of it. And it has a water meter and it's got underground sewage and everything. There's just nothing there, it's just a yard. Would that property still qualify for an ADU, or is that a complete separate property with its own single-family residence areas? Or could I still build an ADU even though it previously used to have its own residence?
Yeah, so what we're seeing is ideally a single-family residence is a great place for an ADU, but the state is now driving to go after multifamily, excuse me, multifamily zones. So it sounds like you might have a property that is zoned multifamily and at one point had a separate dwelling. That's actually absolutely being supported, and we're having great success in getting projects through the city. Janet was here asking a question earlier about, you know, the city's trying to tell her that she has to build a second or third unit and then an ADU. We're having success in terms of having one dwelling on a multifamily lot going straight to an ADU. We're having success on, if it makes sense, add a second dwelling and then the ADU. Being able to combine that so that it maximizes the rental value for your property.
And that's what I wanted to do, is add a separate dwelling and then add an ADU to get to additional rental.
Absolutely possible, depending on how big your lot is and what your exact zone is. Every property is very specific, so it's hard to give generalities, which is why I say it's possibly, maybe potentially, a potential idea. Maybe.
So you're saying that
that's one of my favorite movies.
So I just want to share one thing. San Diego is notoriously known for having a lot of unpermitted structures. We all know that because, you know, people don't want to take no for an answer. And, you know, 20, 30 years ago when you were told you could not build an ADU or it was $40,000 for permits, people just did it anyways. I'm hearing that some of the jurisdictions are cracking down on people with these unpermitted units. There's a lot of liability having an unpermitted unit and renting it out. You know, from an insurance standpoint and just, you know, having something that might not be up to code. So a lot of these units, you can easily bring them up to code. And, you know, it's probably the cost. I mean, Emmanuel, maybe you can, if someone has a garage and it's 1949, you know, not Mills Act, not historical, you know, if they want to just convert that.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously we'd love to just start our projects from scratch, but I mean, we can always take it case by case basis and see what the current, you know, structure looks like, what it has, and then coordinate with architects and say, hey, you know, what do you think the city will ask of us to get this, you know, to a point where it can be a living area and be deemed something that can be rented out.
Get it permitted.
And absolutely, I think the ongoing joke is if you walk up and down the alleyway and knock on the garage when you hear an answer, you know, that's a great property. So what you can do there is get it permitted, you know, because if it's not permitted, you got that cranky neighbor syndrome, and everybody has a cranky neighbor somewhere. And then you get ratted out, and then you have to go through the rigmarole anyways. But we've had great success on existing garages that have been converted before I was born, which was just a little while ago, not too many years, and I'm able to get them permitted. And why permit it? So you can claim that the rental income, so if you want to refi something like that, that rental income exists, your property value goes up. So, you know, there's financial reasons not to hide it anymore.
Yeah, people are sitting on gold mines. They have no idea.
Big time.
You know?